We are streaming. We are streaming. Oh, and they can hear us. It's a black screen.
Well, hello everybody, and of course it's a stream from me, which means we were having small technical difficulties to begin with, but we're all here, we're all smiles, and we are all very, very glad to have you here as well. So yes, great to see you all. Whomever has their mic open, Liam or Chris, one of you needs to turn it off. But there we go. Anyway. This is our first stream of Castlemen, and I am joined by two fantastic dungeon masters, or I join them. I don't know. This is anybody's game, really. Anyway, my name is Guy, and of course, I used to run the YouTube channel How to Be a Great GM. Wait a minute, that channel's currently running again. Mwahaha, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated, even if I was the one spreading those rumors. Anyway, so we are doing Castlemen. We're here. We're going to tell you what this show is all about, and hopefully get your input as well. And just before I forget, we have the indomitable Laura Bones79 as our moderator in chat tonight. So behave, or you might just get... Oh, I was going to say a very bad idea with the word bones there. And so she'll give you a warning. Anyway, moving on. Liam, who the hell are you and why are we listening to you?
Who am I? Why are you listening to me? Good Lord, that's a bad idea to do anyway. I am Liam Lowry. Anyone familiar with D&D in a castle where Chris and I met you, Guy, will know me as one of the one-shot DMs and one of the sort of behind-the-scenes goblins helping out.
That's right, behind-the-scene goblin. Absolutely. And Chris, who are you?
Hello, I'm Chris. This is my daughter Elizabeth, who is not sleeping tonight. So she might be joining us for this tonight, unfortunately. I am one of the campaign DMs with D&D in a Castle. I've been with them for a few years now. But I've also been a DM to some degree of professionalism for 10 to 12 years now. I forget exactly.
There we go. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the audience is already asking some amazingly insightful questions, such as this one from Second-Hand World Anvil saying, so do you like castles?
They're all right.
They're all right. They're all right.
We're British. Yeah. We've got a lot of them.
I have no feelings about castles.
You have none whatsoever. Absolutely none. Yes. So to be honest, what is your favourite castle that you have visited? Actually, in the UK, I know Europe's got some, but let's promote British castles, shall we? Any favourite castles?
I recently went to. It's very close to home for me, anyway. I recently went to Alnwick for mine and my partner's anniversary, and Alnwick Castle is gorgeous.
Yes, misspelt but gorgeous. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. It's spelled Alnwick, but it's pronounced Alnwick. Absolutely fantastic, and the Lord still lives there. It's the Lord of Northumbria. Is it Lord of Northumbria? What's that part up there?
I can't remember.
Anyway, he still lives there, so you get to do an amazing castle tour, and they've got some really cool castle stuff. Did you see the countryside surrounding the castle? The lovely rolling hills with all the trees on them.
Yeah, standing on the battlements, like looking out, and you can see for miles.
Yes, all those lovely rolling hills. Do you know what's rather curious about those rolling hills?
Mm.
They're all fake.
What?
Yes, the grounds around Alnwick Castle were designed by a British landscaper known as Calamity Brown. And what Calamity Brown, absolutely, what a name. His job was to go into these basically these castles that were being gentrified and turned into residences. And most castles would have, you know, good sight lines in all directions of the enemy approaching, which doesn't make for very good looking out the window whilst you're reclining in your library. So Calamity Brown went around, he did landscaping, a lot of British castles and things, where he literally created rolling hills, planted vast amounts of forests and trees and things to make nice forests for folks to go wandering in, dug ponds, rivers, streams, the whole toot. Really just went ballistic in terms of making surrounding terrain. So yes, all those rolling hills weren't there originally when the castle was made. They were literally put in place by Calamity Brown. Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely wonderful castle, I have to say. A very, very cool one. Chris, any castles from your side that you particularly enjoy?
Do you know, for purely sentimental reasons, no, not purely sentimental reasons. The area around it's gorgeous. The castle itself's really nice, and it's a largely unupdated, largely original Elizabethan castle. Is Langley. Langley Castle up past Hexham is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, Langley Castle. Okay. Not to be confused with Lumley Castle, Langley Castle.
No.
There's a couple different letters there. Yeah. Why? So countryside and the castle itself. What remains of the castle? Is it still residential or is it ruins? Or
so it's become a hotel. But up until now I'm trying to remember the history of it. Up until, if I remember rightly, the 40s, it was just an empty shell. It was abandoned fairly soon after the end of the Border Reaver period. And I could be wrong. Don't quote me on any of this. But it was abandoned relatively soon after, so it was basically untouched. It wasn't updated during any of the periods afterwards, like castles such as Lumley or places like that. So when they started renovating it, they had this very authentic kind of shell to just do out, and it makes it a very unique. Well, in my experience of castles, anyway, it makes it a very unique experience as opposed to the more kind of periodically updated castles that we tend to have.
Absolutely. Okay, Langley, I shall add it to my list. I'm going to choose a castle from the complete opposite side of the country. So from the north, we go down to the south and into Kent. There is a castle called Bodiam Castle, which was never seen, didn't see any action, didn't do anything exciting at all, nothing whatsoever. But it's a ruin. It's not been turned into anything. It has fallen into ruin. It is the quintessential 4 round towers, square walls, a central keep that is attached to one of the walls, and a moat around it. You couldn't get a more perfect, this is a castle, folks, type of castle. So I think it's well worth checking out. And if you're really desperate, you can actually find, I did a whole video series on Bottom because it was such a cool visual kind of space that hadn't changed. And that's in Kent. So all right, so there we go. You see what happens is you ask questions and we give you answers to those questions. They might not necessarily be the right answers, but they're answers nonetheless. And that kind of gives you the tenure for the entire show, as a matter of fact. We're just going to sit here and talk and chill out and try and solve each other's problems. Specifically related to role-playing, of course. Any financial or emotional advice is strictly non-professional and should never ever be listened to on this channel, but there we are. So what we thought we were going to start off with is we all come from Dungeons and Dragons in a castle, D&D in a castle. That's how we met, and we're all running stuff this year in various shapes and forms at the castle, which I think is super exciting. And I see we've got some of the players who were at D&D in a Castle in November. We've got Derek Willis there.
Hey.
Hi from a chilly, snowy Shire, Shrewsbury.
Hello, Derek.
There we go. We got Derek. Absolutely cracker of a player. Yeah, absolutely. Snow all around. We were looking at the snow warnings. We're like, tee London doesn't get anything. It's like the whole of England, and then it just sort of curves around London. So anyway, there we go. Right, so Laura's just posted the link to D&D in a castle. But don't worry, it's a good few months off. First castle's in April. They've just finished their Dungeon Master University, actually. And that was in Atlanta in Georgia, I think. Curses. Bring it over here, I say. You know, what's wrong with Oxford? Anyway, one of the things which I was thinking about, and the two of you've got quite extensive knowledge in terms of like resources and things. I'm looking for a tower, a square tower. Because the other day I was at Convention Dragon Meet, and I picked up a gigantic arena. It's actually right behind me. Let me show it to you. This is a show and tell kind of thing. Right? So the arena arrived, and I was very excited. I mean, it was the company that was selling it. What was the company's name? They were called Terrain by Hand. And so they sold me these pieces, right? And they're sizable. They're pretty big. And they fit together, and you get the arena. But you can see that this is just one of like 12 pieces, to make this nice big arena. Now, I'm not saying that I might have arenas in upcoming games, but when one has arena parts, one is inclined to try and use an arena, right? The only problem is that in the 4 points where the walls would meet, I can either have a perfect circle, in which case then the characters need to enter the arena through the floor or the ceiling, which is technically not a problem, but at the same time, I feel like it does remove an element of terror and tension if I don't have someone watching, right? I need something that's square and that's going to fit in the middle and is probably about, 15 centimeters, so 3 inches. No, 5 inches, right? 6 inches, somewhere there. That goes in the middle. And I've been looking, and there are a couple of companies that have the tower. So obviously we'll 3D print and that sort of thing. Chris, you've got a lot of printed stuff behind you. I noticed by the vast array of painted and unpainted, but painted mostly, possibly.
The 4.5-5 kilos of pewter minis that I have at my feet that are unpainted would suggest mostly unpainted.
Anyway, so I'm thinking about a tower or something. So, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Any
so the first thing that jumped to mind.
Yeah.
How did you say you wanted it to be about like 6 inches?
Well, just wide. The height is irrelevant. It can be as tall or as low as you like. It doesn't really matter.
So, I have a DM screen.
Okay.
Remarkably, it's a little bit kind of European castle.
Yeah.
But it is, what's that?
That's about
4.5-5 inches.
Yeah, that's about right.
Doubles as a dice tower.
Okay, and now was that something that you picked up, or was that something that you printed?
That's something that I printed. This is 3 pieces, and each of them was 6. Each of them was a 16-hour print. So that's there are 2 of them. So that's 70, 80, 90 hours of printing.
It's a long time, yes, yeah.
But printers are a lot faster than they were when I printed these. So.
Yes, no, that's true. And I actually have a friend in London who does all of my printing for me anyway. So when it comes to that sort of large scale stuff, I've got a resin printer here at home, but I wouldn't print that in resin. No. All right, well that certainly can do. Liam, any thoughts from your side?
I know you can find sort of MDF
right,
sort of Is MDF the word I'm using?
It's
Chris
wood.
has like a whole Venetian city made out of it.
Yes.
Yes. What are they called?
I'm
That
looking
company?
around.
Terrain something. Terrain something.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
You can get, they're quite modular and whatnot. You'll be able to find something like that.
Yeah.
And then to make it stonework instead of MDF, all you need is foam and some rocks.
Yeah, absolutely. Or there's a substance which I've found. I'm fairly certain it's incredibly toxic, but it comes in. I kid you not. It's a giant vat of 5 kilos of this white. They call it clay, but it's really like chewing gum, and you can mold whatever you like out of it, and it air dries.
Mhm.
And so that's absolutely. Yeah. I have that MDF. It's laser cut, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah. Absolutely. I wish I could. I can't remember the name now, but anyway, yes. Okay.
TT Combat is the
Tabletop Combat. That's the one.
Yep.
Yes. TT Combat.
There's
That's
a couple of other good ones. TT Combat are excellent. I cannot for the life of me remember the company name, but there's a Wayland Games sell
them. Okay.
Some great stuff. I've got like a full on kind of gothic manor house that's served me incredibly well. Full interior, gorgeous. Maybe 45 centimeters square,
Okay.
I think.
Nice.
Gorgeous.
All right. Okay. Brilliant. Problem solved. Thanks, chaps. Right. So don't worry. We're not going to be sitting here all night promoting 15,000 different companies that we can barely remember the names of. This is literally us sitting here. We created a list of topics that we could possibly talk about, but those topics were not created in terms of, oh, I really want to just talk about stuff. They're topics that no, actually, seriously, I need some help here. And if we're going to sit and chat, let's make it productive. Someone was suggesting make the tower out of Lego. That was Laura, actually. And I'm like, Lego, there was a time where I was like, I'm just going to say that Lego helps with my hobby so that I can just buy Lego.
Yeah.
Right. And there was definitely that D&D set that came out, that Lego set. That we saw that last year. Was it last year that they brought it through?
Yeah.
I didn't play the adventure. I saw the Lego set. The Lego set was really cool. The price point was like, oh my goodness, okay, maybe I'm glad that I didn't decide to go Lego as my medium of map building. But it certainly is a viable option. I mean, it's a very tempting option. Anyway, we do have some questions, which are wonderful. And if you could, because I'm very, very old and the screen is very, very far away from me, if you do have a question, put the word question in caps in front of it in the chat, and then I can see it, and I will happily try and get to it as soon as I can. So the question was, does a DM have style? Maybe like teachers have a teaching style.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, you answered first, Liam. Absolutely. And now why?
In the same way that every writer and every author has a writing style.
Okay.
Running a game is like telling a story. Every storyteller has a different style. This actually, one of me and Chris have talked about this before, and one of my most favorite comparisons we've ever made about each other is that Chris's play style is like whiskey and mine is like wine, or like running games. Chris's games, it's gonna, I'm trying not to swear, it's gonna mess you up and it'll burn and hurt the whole way down. Whereas mine, you go into it, everything's happy and giggly and everyone's having a great time, and then by the end of the night everyone's crying on the floor.
Can confirm.
Wow.
Can confirm.
I've never thought about my playing style in terms of a beverage. Says a lot about me that I kind of fancy a nice cup of tea. It's like, my games are like tea, vaguely tinged with flavor and mildly comforting on a cold, rainy day. It's like, no, hang on a moment. Let me think about it. Okay, so that's interesting. So,
Yeah.
and have you two played with? Phrasing. Have the two of you played a D&D game together?
Yes, I suppose we can
in,
tell everyone that
in the reverse role. So you've played as a player and as a DM for each other.
yes, that has essentially been our friendship for the past 10 years. Is that we torture and stress each other out, taking it in turns to be each other's DM.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Liam was one of my when I got back into D&D like 10, 11, 12 years ago. Liam was one of my very first players, and has been in pretty much every game I've run since. I think every Castle's playtest, basically every one shot I've done, most of the campaigns. Yeah, Liam's been a huge part of my my D&D
sort of journey
of recent years.
Okay. And I've played at your table, Chris, but it was a one-shot. And it was a one-shot after I had just finished running 24 hours of gaming. And it was with two players who I still, to this day, will play D&D with as often as I can. We were a little bit crazy. Some of the chaps in chat are saying that Chris's drink is actually hemlock. It's not whiskey, which I think is quite funny. Adrian is saying Dr. Pepper. What's the worst that can happen? Dr. Pepper. I think I've had Dr. Pepper maybe once or twice in my life. Maybe.
I am currently drinking Dr. Pepper.
Well,
whoever said Dr. Pepper.
There we go. Yeah, Adrian Glover said Dr. Pepper. Laura Bones said absinthe. So there we go. That would be interesting. No. That would be interesting. Okay. I have this. Secondhand World Anvil says that it's soup style. Forget about a drink. It's just a soup. Something brothy, I hope. Anyway, this is all craziness. I suppose, Laura, you have played with me on multiple occasions in terms of being at my table. You can decide what drink is closest to my game, and I'll see if I agree with you, or I've even had that drink to begin with. Because I have a sneaky suspicion that my drink is like one of those that you have at those fancy taverns called like the Alchemist and stuff, where there's lots of smoke and sparks and color, and then after a while you've just left with a slightly soggy drink. But anyway, we'll see. Laura, you can see what you come up with there. Right, so DM styles, completely agree. The rest of the question was then, can you change your style as a DM for a particular table?
I think you can. I think especially when it comes to running professionally, there's a certain amount that you have to be flexible, because you're going to have different players of different types, and they're not all necessarily going to fit into your kind of DM style. The first thing that comes to mind is my game style is very horror based, even in games that aren't necessarily horror. Like a lot of those influences creep in. And a lot of the way that I just naturally describe stuff is kind of horrifying. So being switched on to what your players are reacting to and what they're not reacting to is kind of part and parcel with being a DM, especially once you're doing it for money. So yeah, I do think you can shift your play style. I think it's a skill that you learn. And it has a big part, or it has a lot to do with your empathy towards the players at your table, which is kind of your job. Yeah, that's how generally my views on it.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Liam, on that one, or are you sort of mirroring what Chris
I'm
says?
agreeing with that. Yeah.
I do think there's some playing styles that I have certainly told players I can't get there. I cannot do that type of game. And for me personally, that is the mechanics heavy kind of game. You know, where it's like, okay, right, I have designed this adventure to tax the PCs 30% at this point, and they will have to have all of their, you know, their spells are going to have to be perfectly chosen to survive type of thing. I cannot do that. If only because I start in the first room, I'm like, okay, this has got to be 25% of their resources have to be used in this battle. And I'm like, well, we're going to have an ogre. But why is the ogre there? And what does the ogre want?
Yeah.
And what is the ogre really feeling about the warlord that's put them there? And, you know, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I've forgotten all of the maths that I was trying to put together. And, you know, all those kind of crazy combos and things. I think that's the only style that I've ever said to someone, look, I'm terribly sorry, but I will not be able to give you a good experience.
Yeah. Because
my brain doesn't work like that. So... we're pretty much all narrative, aren't we, in terms of our focus? I wouldn't say that any of our games are over. It's not like you sit down and you go, right, this is going to be combat and mega brainstorming and that sort of thing. I think all three of us, am I wrong there, Chris, are more interested in the story and the bigger picture narrative?
I think of the three of us, I'm Liam. You might disagree with me here. I'm not sure, but I think of the three of us, I'm the most mechanical. It's still very much narrative. I mess around with stuff all the time. Very little of what I do is rules like precisely as written.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
that does.
Yeah.
Sorry, that does play in quite nicely into Wandering Heron. Hello, Sharon. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Sharon.
You asked kind of what our strengths as DMs and what are our strengths as DMs and what things do we struggle with? Which I think you've just played into a little bit there, Guy, with your kind of lack of mechanical.
You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. So yes,
beautiful segue.
Yes, it's as if you planned it. My goodness, it's like you can send the text out. Right, thanks. You've sent the message. Right, right. Next question. So strengths and weaknesses. That's interesting. Well, one of my weaknesses is definitely mechanics. It is something that I wish I could do better. And it's not like applying mechanics to the game. It's remembering. It's remembering mechanics to be able to link to other mechanics, right?
Yeah.
You know, I look at some people who built these characters. They're like, oh well, when I hit and do this, this happens, and that triggers, and this causes that to happen, and so I'm dealing out X amount of damage, and I'm sitting there going, oh, well, I've just got a +2, but I followed the rules. I did all of the things, but you know, it's seeing those kind of synergies that I think is probably my greatest weakness. And that is something that actually I think they have addressed really well in the 2024 monsters that they are releasing. Because I think those monsters are designed for people like me, where they're like, hey, you don't have to think too hard. All of that stuff is here. Whereas 2014 monsters, I often used to go, well, these monsters are useless. They can't do anything. It's like, is it the monster or is it really just the GM? You know, so, but anyway, that's enough about me and my weaknesses. Let's talk about you guys. What are your weaknesses?
Liam?
Good Lord, my weaknesses. Honestly, probably mechanics as well. Sometimes I can be very good at remembering just very specific rules from the rule book. Other times it will just leave my head.
The new grapple rule.
Yeah, and narrative brain will just be like, it doesn't matter what the rule is. This is how the story's gonna go. Yeah. Strengths. Chris has tried to hammer compliments into me many a time. As well as all of my players have mentioned my NPCs are usually where I tend to shine. Whether they're lovable or hateable.
Right. So I was about to say, in what way do they tend to shine? Sorry, I've
They are
just
always
seen...
memorable.
Yes.
Always memorable.
Do you do like
That's good
accents?
or bad.
Is it your descriptions? What do you think makes them sort of jump out?
Both, I guess. I spend a lot of time. I'm not gonna lie. I spend a lot of time on D&D Beyond character creation, just making characters and making backstories. I do this for pretty much every game system. Actually, is I just make characters and backstories constantly. Just as it's almost habit. It's just in my head. And since I am usually the DM, I don't get to play all of these dozens and dozens of characters, so they get to be NPCs.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I must admit, I'm in awe. I have almost never done that. I very seldom make play a character. If you asked me how do I make a character in 2024 D&D, I'd go on D&D Beyond, following their steps, because that's. I think if I've made like 5, that's a lot. So I think that's a really good idea, because you've got these characters. They got full sheets, and then you just draw on them as you will. Huh.
Yeah, and the more you get to learn your players, the more you can kind of design NPCs around them. Especially villains. Like once you find out what your players like love, hate, and love to hate, you can really just fine tune.
Yes, and then sort of poke the bear. It's like, yeah, I like that. I like that. And of course, we've got the wonderful Gemma Randall joining us, and Gemma is saying that Liam excels at the emotional aspect, whether it's unending love or immense hatred. And Chris specializes in keeping you guessing. You never know what's coming, except that it will be awful.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So, Chris, tell us about your weaknesses.
I am very, very quickly, because this is a hill I will die on, is that Liam is a better DM than me, and I will explain why. His NPCs are nobody stands close. They are the reason that Liam is so good at them is because he is able to instantly, usually within a sentence or two, give you exactly who that character is and condense them down into those 1 or 2 aspects without ever making them 2-dimensional. So I can like there are quotes that'll pop up from time to time, like sorry about the cussing, that immediately make me think of like a specific character. And that's just that's who they are. They're instantly recognizable. Even without the voice or the accent, you mention that thing straight back into the game. I am in awe of that skill, and it is not a skill I have. Which is my weakness, is weirdly role playing. I work very hard at doing it because it's such a big part of the game, and it's the game for a lot of people. But it's the part of the game that I really struggle with. My strength, what would I say? There's a couple of things I'd say I'm really good at. Explaining the game. I think while I'm not very good at the synergy, especially at characters and like how different things play into each other, that min-maxing aspect of the game I'm not very good at. However, when it comes to taking the basic mechanics of the game and explaining them in a way at the table that is quick, and my skills comes from playing public games for years with like 12 people playing D&D on a mezzanine at one time. The other thing that I'm pretty good at is leaving my players emotionally exhausted and feeling pained.
Yeah, I'd agree with
it's
that.
my game style is just I hurt people.
Isn't that such a wonderful job to have? It's like, well, what's your job? Oh, I hurt people. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And they come back for more.
No, they pay me to do this.
Oh goodness, yeah. It is a lot of fun. So let's circle back. When you say you work really hard with role playing, can you break that down a little bit more? What do you mean by role playing?
So I am very comfortable describing narrative. I'm very comfortable telling a story. I can describe a room to you. I can. In fact, actually, one of my other skills is just pulling narrative out my arse. I'm very happy turning up with zero prep and running a game that people enjoy. It's actually where most of my best games come from, are ones that are just kind of ripped off the dome.
Oh, wait. They've lost the audio for some unknown reason.
Oh.
No, there should still be audio. Is everyone still getting audio? 1, 2, 3. Yes?
I certainly am.
Yes, you are. So I don't know. We shall see. Audio is still good for me. Okay, folks. So, I'm just going to put something into chat. Sorry, Chris, to have stopped you there, but
No, go for it.
So, sorry, you were saying?
Yes, sorry. So, what was I talking about? Yes, working at role playing. So, like that aspect of it, I'm perfectly happy with. Perfectly happy with kind of pulling stuff out off the top of my head. When it comes to character interactions, though, knowing exactly what a character would say, or being able to speak in that character, or especially voices like accents, even just little parts of it. With the exception of a Geordie accent, I see you in the chat there, Derek. That part of it, making characters memorable quickly, is something that I have struggled with in the past. I think it's one thing that I never really thought about until I started running games at the Castle, where we have a very narrative, role-playing focused clientele for the most part. It was when I kind of sat down with them and realized that, I really need to up my game on this, because that's what they want to do, and I want to give them a game that's worth their money. So I kind of have to stretch those muscles, get better at that. And it's still something I'm working on. In games, I try to be more free with voices that I would use. I try to be a little less. That's what I'm looking for. Scared, honestly. You kind of don't want to be mocked for pulling out a. I mean, you guy witnessed firsthand my terrible French accent. It turned Russian during the sound check.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, you only. First, I wouldn't say it was terrible. It was just the accent. It was the accent of the character. That's always my defense. If someone's like, "Do you think that's supposed to be Irish?" I'm like, "No, that is supposed to be gnomish." And if you question me on what gnomes sound like, well, they sound like my bad Irish accent. I mean, but I absolutely hear you. That performance anxiety, if you will, that fear. I think everybody gets that. And I've just started a game with 3 wonderful players who I played a year campaign with them. We played fortnightly online. And then we stopped for about a year, I'd say. And last night was our session 1 of a new campaign stretch. And I've played with these guys for years. And still, before the game started, I was sitting there going, is this going to be interesting enough? Is this the right hook for them? It's also in a different campaign style to the one that I normally run. Because normally I'm doing epic campaigns, right? And I think if anyone, and I'd love feedback from anyone watching as well, is I do epic, right? You come into my game as a level 1 character and you will probably be facing off against an ancient red dragon in scene 1. And through some miracle of circumstance or whatever, the characters survive and the journey goes and the monsters just get bigger, right? The scenarios get bigger. It's always world-ending kind of stuff. Anyway, these players are like, yeah, We did that with you. They literally became gods. They replaced the gods of my world by the end of their campaign, having slaughtered every living dragon on the planet. But they're like, okay, we want to try the other type of campaign, the player-based campaign, where it's their characters trying to do stuff. And as the GM, I am facilitating the world's reactions to that. And yes, throwing in potential adventures and plots for them, but ultimately the focus is on their characters are trying to achieve something. And of course, when I said, okay, great, what are your characters trying to achieve? They all went, we haven't figured that out yet. We don't know. So it was like, so how do I plan a game for you guys if you don't know what you want to do in it? And I'm basing the game on what you want to do. But the game kicked off. They have two wonderful stories running already. There's a burgeoning romance that started, and this is in the first 3 hours of play. It's super cool, and it's just running. But there was that trepidation, right? That kind of nervousness going, oh, is this enough? Is this going forward enough? Yeah, it was quite the thing. Anyway, right. So that was a great question, folks. So if you have more questions, please go ahead and ask them. I see that JT Roger 1092 has asked a question saying, is D&D in a castle strictly D&D? I'm fairly burnt out after 15 years or so, and the new thing is just different enough to be irritating. Interesting thoughts there. So straight off the bat, D&D in a castle is D&D. It's kind of in the name. However, having said that, personally, I believe that and I come from D&D days, right? And Chris, you're an expert on all of the different versions of D&D that have ever run, right?
Apparently so, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, by expert, I mean you have actually run D&D 2nd edition, 3rd edition in the last 2 years.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
The only major edition I haven't played is 3.5 in the last year.
Right. There we go. Absolutely. So, and I know people kind of go, oh, I'm just so bored of rolling a d20 and adding numbers and stuff. I want different mechanics and that sort of thing. But what would you say to someone like that, where they say, I just want to role play and I don't want it to necessarily be D&D. Do you have any thoughts on that, chaps?
I would say that, honestly, DM style and play style has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
If you are playing with the same DM regularly, and I get this, like, you know, I have players who have played with me for a long time and have gotten bored because of the same play style, the same campaign, the same system, whatever, and want to go try something different. And we've gone and played, I don't know, Vampire the Masquerade, Mouse Ritter, older version, like old school D&D. But play style, play with a new DM. If you specifically think in D&D in a castle, then a huge part of that is the people at the table that create the story with you. I know two of my campaigns, they're all still friends now, and that joy of creating new friends at the table is a huge part of the experience. And just having some, obviously, TJ, I don't know your particular background, but if you're used to a very specific type of DM and you turn up at the castle and have someone who's narrative focused, who's maybe like B. Dave Walters, who's big, bombastic, throwing like colossal miniatures at you, level 20 madness, fighting every major enemy in D&D, in the history of D&D. That's something a little bit different, and all of a sudden the D20 and the mechanics don't really matter as much. Also, it's likely that you haven't played every single class, species, background. There are interesting characters in there, and if you are interested in the narrative, you can make the mechanics work for the character. I've run a wizard with 0 offensive spells, who gets out of combat by using rogue abilities and illusion magic, and managed to, in the one shot that I created him for, skipped by 75% of the combat encounters that my DM created for it. And that's just a fun.
Yes.
It's a fun thing. It's something different, and it's a different way of playing the game while still playing the same game.
Yeah, I think you've hit it on the head. I do think something important to point out is that at D&D in a castle, you are, unless you're specifically choosing the DM you want to play with, you are paired up with DMs that sort of match the style of what you describe when you're signing up and that sort of thing. So, if you say I want something narrative, you're going to get a DM who is incredibly narrative focused, and I think that there's that novelty factor that you were talking about, Chris, and it's the people around the table that make it. And also, this is a space where the DM is doing their very best to make you as happy as possible. Even if that means making you bawl your eyes out because of a character death or whatever. And I've had players at my table who don't know the rules. And we switched over to 2024 the moment it became available. And we had a giant caveat saying, okay, guys, we don't know these new rule tweaks. Some of them are small, some of them are dramatic. We're going to learn them together and we're going to experience them together. And it didn't kind of get in the way. It didn't slow things down. We just made a rules call at the time, moved on. And then when we had a break, we're like, okay, let's actually go and look up the rules for grappling. And yes, I may still be fixated on the new rules for grappling because they still dribble out my brain. I don't understand it. It's tricky in my head anyway. So any further thoughts on that, Liam?
No, I think Chris
he did
really just knocked out the park with that one.
Yeah, sorry, I might have stolen all the answers there.
No, you know what that says to me though, Chris, is it just says that, when we come back together again in 2 weeks' time, you can just run the show and Liam and I are going to have a drink.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Right. Now, there's another question that's come through here, and we'll take your questions over and above the stuff that we've planned to talk about, because A, it means we don't have to think about new stuff next time, but B, and this is the more important one, your questions are throwing stuff at us that we maybe didn't think about, and it gets us thinking about things. And so Chris Moore has asked, Chris Moore asked, what's your favorite thing about D&D and other RPGs? That's an interesting one. Liam, you've got some pearls of wisdom?
That's a big question. Well, it's about good Lord. I mean, I think RPGs in general, not just D&D, but all these RPGs can offer so much to anyone, whether it's it can range from therapy with your friends. It can be something as little as just getting to hang out with the people you care about most, and then it can be a channel for all of the creative thoughts in your head. Storytelling is, I think, one of the best things about being human, and TTRPGs are just a very special little niche of that. The other things just don't cater to or fulfill. And different RPGs allow you to tell different stories better than others. D&D is actually a very good, in my opinion, sort of jack of all trades system. You can tell any kind of story in D&D very easily, and I just think it's a perfect pastime, hobby, career, whatever, for all the kids who play pretend on the playground, grown maybe a little older than they should have done.
Yeah, that whole growing older thing. Yeah, absolutely. But that was a beautiful answer. I mean, I think that was just just lovely. It is niche. You know, it sucks to be a cow. You can't tell stories. Ha ha.
Hey, opposable thumbs and storytelling.
There we
That's
go.
all we've got going for us.
That's all we got going for us. But hey, at least one out. Yeah, absolutely. I think something else that I think is an attraction is a sense of group accomplishment.
Yeah.
And it's not about, oh, I did the most damage or yay, we killed the dragon. It's more on we as a team have come together and we have journeyed on this thing and we've got to the end of that journey. And I think that's why when campaigns fizzle out and that sort of thing, it's so kind of soul destroying. It's like, oh, we don't get to experience that. And why when we do finish an adventure, when we do finish a campaign, there is that bizarre kind of we've been to war and we all came back type of thing. I mean, no disrespect to anybody who's actually been to war. I cannot imagine what that would be like, but the camaraderie, I think, is built there. As you say, you form friends with people around the table. And even as the DM, who is ostensibly playing the enemy, there is still that sense of we got there in the end. You know, it wasn't me versus you. It was the table got to the end of the story.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the other side of the coin. But the storytelling, I think, is absolutely on point. Right. Next.
From the DM perspective as well.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Sorry, from the DM perspective as well, there's a certain amount of, without wanting to sound condescending to players, there's a certain amount of pride. Because you are, I don't know, maybe other DMs are kinder than me, but I really do throw a lot at my players, and very little of it with the expectation that they'll actually be able to beat it. So when they do, there's a certain amount of congrats. You did it. You beat the very worst that I could throw at you.
Yeah, that's true. There are many times where I throw stuff at the players and then realize that it's not the full party because they split up for whatever reason. It's like, wait a minute, you cannot survive this. There is no way you survived. Awesome.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes the scenarios, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this. I put this scenario together. They come across the scenario, they start playing through it, and then you realize, oh, hang on a moment. They actually I don't know how they're going to get out of this. I actually, as the DM, have no clue how on earth they will survive. It's like, I don't know. I can't see a way out as the DM. And yet somehow the players manage to pull themselves through. You know, anyway, sorry. So there we go. Right. Well, we're almost out of time because it's going to be an hour long and they are going to be every fortnight. Now, one of you is not making it in 2 weeks' time, I think. One of you is on this thing called holiday. Is that right? Am I wrong? I thought we said.
No, I'm in Q8 next week.
Oh, I see.
Next week I'm in Q8.
There you go. Okay. And that's running a game.
It is, yes. I'm running a campaign over in Q8 for a bunch of guys who I met at the castle.
Lovely.
Which is exciting and terrifying.
Yes.
So my life is just prepping the fall of the Summer Court. It's actually from my campaign in November. One of the players accidentally destroyed the Feywild that he came from by killing all 3 major members of the Summer Court, which now means that there is no balance in the Feywild. It means there is a bunch of other people who are very interested in taking the place of the Summer Court. So this party are going to be dealing with the fallout of that.
Interesting.
That's cool.
I mean, yes, absolutely. You're like, wow, there are so many things there that you could throw at them.
My favorite thing was when discussing with a couple of people about like what would happen in the Feywild. Was when one of them came back with the Wild Hunt misbehaves.
Huh.
maybe one of the most low key terrifying things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Now, are you taking lots of minis and things with you? Are you taking maps with you and that sort of thing, or is it?
Bits and bobs. It's not.
Okay.
It's not going to be the same.
Don't reveal any of your
same, like,
secrets.
big terrain builds or everything, but it's going to be. Actually, for me, it's going to be really interesting because it's going to make me stretch muscles that I tend not to. So I'm actually looking forward to it with an air of trepidation.
Yeah.
Not being able to rely on just the terrain builds and the kind of visual spectacle of it, but actually having to go out there and explain and describe all the stuff that usually I would just put a building down and go, cool, boom, boom, there you go.
Yes, absolutely. And you allow the terrain to sort of do the talking for you to a certain degree. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got time for one more question. And that question was, in long-running campaigns, how do you prevent DM burnout? Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? That is a big one. Liam, have you run any long campaign? I mean, yeah. Firstly, what would you define as a long campaign?
I mean, my home game that Chris, I think it's the only game that Chris isn't a part of. I had a home game that lasted from level 5 up to 17. That took 6 years. That's pretty long. DM burnout. It's tough.
Yeah.
Introducing different plot hooks, always good. Change the themes, like the sort of themes that the next story arc deals with can always help. A change of venue. Honestly, take your players to the Feywild for 3 sessions. Things change wonderfully. Yeah, you'll not get bored.
Yeah.
I also, I guess, have sort of that need to give a great story. That I don't want to let my players down, so I'm just gonna keep telling. I'm just gonna keep telling the story to the best of my ability.
And I think you've hit something on the head there. You are wanting to create this great story with your players. And I often think that DM burnout happens because the DM is giving everything and getting nothing back from the players. And so the DM is carrying everything. The DM has to be the one that has all of the NPCs and the emotional tangents and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the players just are not... They're either not taking notes, or they're not listening, or they forget stuff. You know, they are not as invested as you are, and I think that's oftentimes where burnout comes from as well. Is that it just feels like you are fighting this uphill battle, and so I completely agree with you though. Yes, change it up. I even talk about with this particular question. Every now and again, you have to have a ridiculous adventure where the characters turn into mice, or they shrink, or they, it doesn't have to be a 6-month foray into something insane. It can just be a two sort of evening sessions worth of shenanigans.
Chris mentioned a quote of an NPC earlier, which was sorry for cursing. That came from a session where, in a fairly serious campaign, all the characters find themselves in a roadside tavern, and the owner has not pooped for... I forget how long. I was putting it to
a while.
For quite a while, and he's like, "It's got to be magic. I've been cursed." And the owner had been cursed, do not be able to poop. And I had to solve that. And I think it was one of the best sessions of D&D.
Right. Well,
Didn't he also invent the beef burger or the cheeseburger? Sorry.
No. He said he went on holiday to I don't know, Farmsburg, which was where burgers were invented, and everyone groaned very loudly.
Oh, but it's the groans that make the game. It's the groans that make the game.
Yeah,
all right. So going back to right at the beginning, we were talking about what drink my games would be, and Laura came up with something which I think I can honestly say I will never drink. But she said that my gaming style is a Bajan rum punch. I mean, I'm quite partial to punches. I'm not going to lie there. But a Bajan rum punch, slightly fruity, Moorish, and deadly. So I don't know the.
Nice.
Yes. Well, thank you, Laura, for your contributions. Thank you for being a moderator on our stream tonight. Thank you to everybody for watching and for all of those who posted through those questions. They were really, really cool. And so we will be back in 2 weeks' time. So please find us here on the channel, same time, same place, where we may actually get to the stuff that we thought we were going to talk about, but we may not, and that's just the joy of hanging out with the three of us. Yes, I don't think there'll be any progress on the tower thing because I'm not going to start printing that just yet. I want to have some more looking around or looking at the wooden terrain stuff. And just seeing where we can end up there. Anyway, so thank you to all of you for watching. A massive thank you to Liam and Chris for being part of Castlemen. And I think we would be very remiss if we didn't say a huge thank you to, of course, D&D in a Castle, who brought the three of us together in the first place. Because if it hadn't been for them, there is no ways I would have ever dragged my sorry carcass all the way up to Newcastle multiple times, enough to fall in love with the county. I did say the other day that if we ever left London, it would have to be up to Durham County because it's just beautiful up there, I have to admit. So anyway,
very nice.
Lovely. Chaps, thank you very much. And to all of you, we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Till then, goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.